A global transformation. Everyone will become the last animal they ate. Someone ate a bowl of beef noodles and transformed into an ancient black dragon with immense power. Someone ate a fried chicken leg and transformed into an immortal phoenix, reborn from flames. But in my last life, I just casually ate some braised chicken and rice. I only awakened useless singing, dancing, and rapping skills. In an apocalypse overrun by vicious beasts, a world where the strong prey on the weak. I didn't last long and met a tragic end. Now, I've been reborn, just before the cataclysm. I know all the truths about the coming apocalypse. I'll plan every step with precision. I swear I will stand at the very pinnacle of this beast. Transformed world. My first target is the owl. It possesses ultimate night vision. Its hearing is far more sensitive than most other creatures. If I can obtain the owl's abilities, I'll be able to completely ignore the dangers of the night. In the treacherous nights of the apocalypse, I will become the unshakable king of the dark. The second must-have is the American electric eel. It can release a powerful high-voltage current of over 800 volts. In my last life, a powerful transform relied on the eel's ability to dominate the apocalypse. No one dared to provoke him. After making up my mind, I immediately went online to search for all kinds of incredibly powerful creatures. A seemingly insignificant ant instantly caught my attention. A common ant can lift objects 400 times its own weight, and the bullet ant is the top dog among ants. It's ranked among the world's 10 most venomous creatures. The owl will give me ultimate night vision and superhuman hearing. The American electric eel will let me control the powerful ability of high-voltage electricity. The bullet ant will grant me the ant's incredible strength, as well as a powerful bite and deadly venom. Offense, perception, and venom are all covered, but I'm still missing the most crucial ability, defense. In the cruel apocalypse, if your defense is weak, no matter how strong your attack is, sooner or later you'll be hunted down by other transformed or end up as a meal for a mutated beast. Since I've been reborn, I'm going to make myself a hexagonal warrior with no weaknesses, an all-powerful god of war. Speaking of defense, should I choose a turtle or a crocodile? In my last life, I saw someone who ate crocodile meat before the transformation. After transforming, his entire body was covered in crocodile scales. His strength, bite force, and physical defense were all ridiculously strong. Some netizens in the comments recommended the pangolin. They said its scales are as hard as natural armor. It can even deflect ordinary bullets, but the pangolin is a nationally protected endangered species. There's no legal way to get one? I immediately gave up on that option. Just as I was deep in thought, I suddenly thought of the tardigrade, with its heaven-defying vitality. If I can eat enough tardigrades before the cataclysm, I can inherit its immortal constitution. This creature is said to be able to survive as long as the sun exists. It can live forever. It can withstand extreme heat, extreme cold, and immense pressure. Even if thrown into outer space, high vacuums and radiation, as long as it's not at the center of a nuclear blast, it can survive unscathed. More importantly, tardigrades are found all over the world. They're everywhere, in moist soil, moss, and water films. It's the easiest, heaven-defying trump card to obtain, but a problem arose. A tardigrade that can't even be killed in outer space. How am I supposed to prepare it for consumption? I immediately looked up professional scientific information online. I finally figured out its weakness. Tardigrades are transparent. When they encounter harsh environments, they automatically dehydrate and shrink into a barrel shape. Scientists have placed them in extreme environments of 150 degrees Celsius and at 200 degrees Celsius. After returning to normal temperatures, they can still revive. Nuclear radiation on the level of an atomic bomb and water pressure 6 times that of the Mariana Trench can't kill them, but they have a fatal weakness. A UV sterilization lamp can kill them completely with 15 minutes of exposure. They lose all activity within 24 hours. High-temperature steam and direct flame can also kill them. After gathering all the key information, I immediately began to act, racing against time. There are only 3 days left until the transformation cataclysm. I must hurry and prepare my exclusive transformation ingredients. First, I bought a microscope and a UV sterilization lamp online. Using a UV lamp to kill the tardigrades is the safest method. It prevents losing the tiny creatures. The outskirts of my town are all farmland and forests. Moss grows everywhere. It's the perfect gathering place for tardigrades. I immediately went into the mountains to collect a large amount of moss and soil, preparing to filter out the tardigrades back home. On my way to gather supplies, A salamander, about a dozen centimeters long, crawled out from the grass by the road. I suddenly remembered. This creature has a powerful self-healing ability, the incredible power to regenerate severed limbs. I quickly went online to confirm with netizens. After getting a definitive answer that salamanders can regenerate indefinitely and have extremely strong vitality, I was instantly thrilled. The tardigrade's immortal constitution, combined with the salamander's limb regeneration, with these two heaven-defying abilities stacked, I'll be practically invincible in the apocalypse. I took the salamander home first to raise it properly. Then I rode my motorcycle to the county mall. I bought the UV sterilization lamp and also got some high-stretch clothing to prevent my clothes from ripping if my body size increases during the transformation. At the same time, on a short video platform, I private messaged several major breeding bloggers. I plan to buy an owl at a high price, as well as an American electric eel and bullet ants, these key ingredients. By the time I finished everything, it was already evening. I had a simple dinner outside. Then I went to the school to pick up a microscope, beakers, droppers, and a full set of lab equipment to make it easier to separate and collect the tardigrades. Following an online tutorial, I let the moss soak for 24 hours, then squeezed the water out onto a slide. I observed it with the microscope. Perhaps it was the good luck from my rebirth. On my very first try, I found a 0.1 millimeter tardigrade. These creatures are invisible to the naked eye. To collect a few hundred of them would take a lot of time and effort. After working for half a day, I only found 12. I figured the moss hadn't soaked long enough. Most of the tardigrades hadn't separated from the moss yet, but as long as the method works, that's enough. I don't need to waste all my time on collecting tardigrades. Just then, a notification popped up on my phone. A blogger specializing in insect breeding named Zhou Jiming, who had over 100,000 followers for his ant content, had replied to my private message. The next morning, I first checked on the salamander I was raising. It was still lively, no need to refrigerate it yet. Then, I went to my appointment. I arrived at Zhou Jiming's private breeding facility. The glass tanks in the facility were filled with all sorts of exotic insects. In a corner were the bullet ants I desperately needed. Zhou Jiming cherished his bullet ants. Even the dead ones were preserved as specimens. I asked to buy 50 live bullet ants, and some dead ones as well. I transferred the money without a second thought. Zhou Jiming secretly regretted quoting such a low price. At the same time, he was very curious why I even wanted the dead insects. While wandering around the facility, two beetles that looked like iron nuggets caught my eye. Zhou Jiming explained, "These are diabolical ironclad beetles, known as the insect with the hardest exoskeleton in nature. It can withstand pressure nearly 40,000 times its own body weight. If scaled up, its physical defense would be the pinnacle of the natural world." Hearing this, I was ecstatic. Isn't this the prototype for the iron-armored beast that dominated the apocalypse in my last life? I immediately added the ironclad beetle to my must-buy list. Zhou Jiming saw I was determined to have them. He immediately jacked up the price. He frankly stated that these exotic species were expensive, easily costing thousands, or even tens of thousands. After some haggling, I ended up paying 20,000 yuan for two ironclad beetles. Now I only had a little over 10,000 yuan left. I still needed money for the American electric eel and the owl. I took the opportunity to ask Zhou Jiming about where to buy an American electric eel. He happened to know a friend who was into exotic aquariums. He had recently acquired an American electric eel, but couldn't keep it alive. Now the eel was weak and wouldn't last much longer. When the seller heard someone was willing to pay a high price, he quoted 5,000 yuan. Zhou Jiming immediately doubled the price and asked me for 10,000. Seeing that time was running out, I didn't bother to bargain with him. I agreed to the deal on the spot. Zhou Jiming secretly mocked me for being a rich fool, but he had no idea that after the apocalypse arrived, all the money in the world would become worthless paper. We quickly went to the seller's place. I confirmed it was a purebred American electric eel in the tank. I immediately transferred the money to complete the deal. The seller kindly reminded me to acclimate it to new water quickly, but I just said I heard eel meat was delicious and planned to cook and eat it. Hearing this, both of them were stunned. They both regretted quoting such a low price. Since I was already in the provincial capital, I went to the pet market. I bought a captive-bred owl. Wild owls are a protected species, and trading them is strictly forbidden. But captive-bred owls also possess top-tier night vision and hearing. they would completely meet my needs. I spent 3,000 yuan on the best-looking owl. At this point, I had gathered all my core transformation ingredients. When I got home, the American electric eel I bought was already dead. I didn't feel the slightest bit of regret. I immediately cleaned and prepared it and put it in the freezer. I planned to take it out and cook it right before the cataclysm. At that moment, I finally understood the underlying rule of the transformation. Everyone thought that on the day of the cataclysm, the undigested animal meat in their bodies would be infused with apocalyptic energy, allowing them to inherit this corresponding animal's abilities. But that was just a superficial illusion. The real truth of the transformation was something no one had ever truly understood. After that, I temporarily stopped collecting tardigrades to ensure that on the day of the transformation, there was no other meat residue in my stomach. I ate only vegetarian food for 2 days to cleanse my system. I still had 6,000 yuan left. I decided to spend it all. I went to the town's blacksmith to buy a weapon for self-defense. Ordinary knives wouldn't hold up in the intense battles of the apocalypse. A giant axe or hammer that matched my future strength and lightning abilities was the best choice for the early stages. I visited every farm tool and blacksmith shop in town. I only managed to find an 8-kilogram demolition sledgehammer. It would have to do for dealing with early-stage beasts and chaotic fights. Then I bought some crocodile meat, high-calorie chocolate, and a mechanical pocket watch. After the apocalypse begins, the power grid will completely fail. It will be hard to tell day from night. Only a mechanical timepiece can accurately keep track of time. After returning home, I sealed and stored the tardigrades I had killed earlier. I also roasted and crushed some regular ants and made them into ant chocolate chips, convenient and practical. I also made 2.5 kilograms of crocodile meat into meatballs and gave them to the homeroom teacher, who had helped me in my previous life. I took inventory of all the ingredients I had purchased: the captive bred owl, the dead American electric eel, 50 live bullet ants, plus some dead ones, 2 ironclad beetles, and a live salamander, and the sealed tardigrades. The prepared crocodile meat was all there, neatly stacked in the refrigerator and storage room. Looking at the room full of heaven-defying trump cards, my heart was as steady as a rock. In my last life, I was a nobody, at the mercy of others. In this life, I hold the top 10 ultimate beast mutation talents. I'm destined to stir up a storm in the apocalypse. Strictly following the mutation rules I discovered, I began to eat. First, I swallowed a specially made bullet ant chocolate bean. As the warm pulp entered my stomach, a surge of scorching heat instantly spread through my limbs. The essence of monstrous strength and venomous stings quietly fused into my flesh. Right after that, I swallowed the cleaned body of an ironclad beetle. Its shell was hard and dry, incredibly difficult to chew and swallow. Fighting the urge to gag, I gritted my teeth and forced it all down. In an instant, the skin and muscles all over my body tightened. An invisible, heavy armor covered my entire body. The essence of physical defense, capable of withstanding extreme pressure, slowly took root within me. Next, I ate a firm crocodile meatball. A domineering, wild beastly power swept through my body. Scale armor hardening, terrifying bite force, and close quarters. Combat instincts of a wild beast fully settled within me. Finally, I finished the owl meat and American electric eel meat in order. All the top-tier beast mutation essences I had planned out in advance were now fully retained in my stomach. Throughout the whole process, I was extremely careful, making absolutely sure not to taint it with any other meat, ensuring my stomach was clean and free of impurities. After eating, I rinsed my mouth thoroughly. I didn't consume any more food, just waiting for the global beast mutation catastrophe to descend. As evening approached, the sky suddenly darkened. The entire sky was completely shrouded in eerie, dark, purple clouds. The air became oppressive and stagnant, so heavy it made it hard to breathe. The streets were still bustling with noise. Pedestrians were chatting, laughing, and strolling around. The night market was booming with life. Countless people were completely oblivious to the impending doom, still eating skewers, barbecue, and desserts, completely unaware that the food they were eating right now would lock in their apocalyptic fate for the rest of their lives and their talent limits. At exactly midnight, boom, an invisible, formless roar echoed through the heavens and earth. There were no deafening sound waves, but it exploded violently in the depths of everyone's soul. Apocalyptic energy poured down. The global beast mutation had officially begun. An invisible shockwave pierced through the world. The dark purple canopy crashed down like an iron curtain. Streetlights flickered wildly, crackling and popping. Bulbs shattered one after another. In the blink of an eye, the noisy, bustling night market plunged completely into boundless, dead silence and darkness. Only an eerie purple mist spread through the streets. A cold, apocalyptic aura swept through every inch of the area. The dead silence lasted for only half a second. Not far away, a burly man who was just scarfing down lamb skewers suddenly convulsed violently. His flesh and bones expanded and dislocated like crazy. Thick black bristles burst through his skin. In just a moment, he transformed into a hideous, black-bristled sheep. His eyes turned blood red. All traces of humanity completely faded from his gaze. A violent, beastly nature surged forth. The mutation of the girl next to him was completely different. Silent, yet incredibly bizarre. Her body softened at a visible rate. A faint, pale blue, watery glow surrounded her. In an instant, she morphed into a translucent, exquisite jellyfish. Panic spread through the streets like a tidal wave. All kinds of beast mutations played out right before my eyes. Everyone's fate had already been quietly sealed by their last meal. At the entrance of a beef bone soup restaurant down the street, a middle-aged man, who had just put down his bowl, suddenly arched his back. His body rapidly hardened and bulged. His muscles and bones grew wildly. He completely lost his humanity. With berserk strength, he lowered his head and rammed forward viciously. With overwhelming momentum, he flipped an entire bus right into the air. It crashed heavily into a roadside shop. Bricks shattered, steel frames bent, dust and smoke instantly filled the air. In the back alley of a spicy frog restaurant on the other side, a man kneeling on the ground, convulsing all over, had skin that quickly became slimy and mottled. His entire face morphed into the ugly visage of a toad. His blood-red, long tongue suddenly shot out. It instantly wrapped around a fleeing pedestrian and yanked them back, dragging the person straight into his belly. The dense clusters of pustules on his back violently burst open. Foul-smelling, corrosive acid splattered onto the ground. The ground sizzled and smoked, rapidly melting and decaying. At this very moment, the most primal and cruel law of the jungle had completely descended. I stood by the window on the second floor of my house, coldly looking down at the chaos below. Right then, a furious roar suddenly erupted from the adjacent building's stairwell. I saw a mutated black wolf over 2 meters tall burst out of the corridor. With one swipe of its claw, it smashed a security window to pieces. After the mutated black wolf landed, its gaze swept over the fleeing crowd. It immediately locked onto a lone girl. It lowered its body and lunged right at her. The girl was so terrified her legs gave out. She couldn't run at all. Seeing that she was about to become the wolf's prey, the people around her only cared about running for their own lives. No one dared to step forward and stop it. My eyes turned cold, even though I didn't want to make a high-profile move right from the start. Leaving someone to die also aligns with the laws of the apocalypse. But I just can't stand seeing the weak bullied for no reason. I might as well take this chance to test the true combat power of my fully stacked talents. Thinking of this, I turned and headed downstairs, gripping an 8-kilogram sledgehammer in my hand. I moved, fully activating my night vision. The dark night became as clear as day. The sound of the wind and the mutated beast's heartbeat were incredibly clear in my ears. With a light tap of my foot, I darted out of the stairwell. My speed far exceeded that of ordinary mutated humans. At this moment, the mutated black wolf was just about to pounce on the girl. Sensing the commotion behind it, it snapped its head around. Its scarlet eyes locked onto me. It let out a low, intimidating growl. I held the massive hammer in one hand. Faint arcs of lightning crackled and danced around my body. Heavy armor defense invisibly covered my entire body. I looked down at it coldly. Behave yourself and get lost. The mutated black wolf was intimidated by the inexplicable pressure radiating from me. It hesitated for a split second. Then, its vicious nature flared up. Its 4 paws kicked off the ground, and it lunged straight at me, bringing a foul gust of wind. I didn't dodge or hide. The monstrous strength of the bullet ant within me fully erupted. The muscles in my arms suddenly bulged. Gripping the sledgehammer, I swung it in a wide arc. Bang! A dull, massive boom exploded. The mutated black wolf was actually sent flying by my hammer. It crashed heavily into the wall several meters away. Its bones shattered all over. It howled endlessly in pain. It looked up in disbelief. Even though my physique looked completely ordinary, my strength, defense, and an aura crushed it by more than just one level. And the pedestrians around who had been fleeing in all directions were now all frozen in place, looking at me in absolute shock after I severely injured the mutated black wolf with a single hammer strike. The black wolf struggled to get up. Its fur was covered in dirt and dust. Piercing pain shot from its broken bones. Fear finally surfaced in its once ferocious, beastly eyes. Then, it tucked its tail between its legs and let out a whimpering howl. Dragging its broken body, it limped away, fleeing into a pitch-black alley. The girl I saved had weak legs, still in shock. She walked up to me. Her voice trembled as she thanked me profusely. I gave her a faint glance. My tone was completely flat. Don't thank me. In the apocalypse, you can only rely on yourself. Look out for yourself. After saying that, I ignored her. I turned around, ready to head back to my place. But I had barely taken a few steps when a dense, rapid rustling sound suddenly came from the green belts on both sides of the street and the shadows in the corners. My owl's super hearing instantly caught the anomaly. I frowned slightly. The next second, countless black ants the size of fingernails swarmed out from everywhere, surging madly toward the center of the street. Wherever they passed, even the weeds on the ground were devoured completely. It's a mutated ant colony. The apocalyptic energy of the mutation catastrophe didn't just infect humans. Even all the insects and beasts in the world had mutated. These originally inconspicuous ants had now become extremely aggressive. The pedestrians on the street who hadn't run far enough were instantly surrounded by the swarm. Screams rang out one after another. The girl was so scared, her face turned deathly pale. She hid tightly behind me. Her voice trembled. So many ants! What do we do? Are we gonna die here? My eyes were cold and sharp. Faint blue electrical currents instantly crackled around my body. Arcs of lightning. Perfect. I'll use this mutated ant swarm to test the high-voltage lightning talent of the American electric eel. Let's see how powerful it is. I stood perfectly still. With a thought, the 800-volt high-voltage current inside me instantly erupted. It surged through my feet and into the ground. Zzzt! The piercing sound of electricity rang out. Blue lightning centered around me and instantly spread in all directions. The approaching mutated ants were zapped into charred husks the moment they touched the current. They fell in massive droves. A burnt smell filled the air, but there were simply too many of them in the swarm. The ones in front had just been electrocuted, and the ones behind charged forward relentlessly, showing absolutely no signs of retreating. Just using area of effect lightning attacks was too slow. I immediately changed my approach. The bullet ant's venom talent was instantly activated. A faint purple toxic glow shimmered at my fingertips. Combined with the electrical currents around my body, any ant that came within 3 meters of me was either electrocuted by the high voltage or instantly killed by the deadly venom. At the same time, the diabolical ironclad beetle and crocodile's dual defense was fully activated. Even if a few stray ants managed to crawl onto me, they couldn't bite through my flesh, which was as tough as iron armor. They couldn't even scratch my skin. The immortal physique of the water bear, combined with its eternal healing talent, left me with absolutely nothing to worry about. Even if I accidentally got hurt, I would heal instantly. After just a few short minutes, a thick layer of ant corpses piled up at my feet, forming a defensive line that blocked off the swarm. The girl hiding behind me watched me, effortlessly block the terrifying swarm. Her eyes were filled with unbelievable admiration. After resolving the immediate ant swarm crisis, I was just about to tell her to leave on her own, when a deafening roar suddenly echoed from the distance. I saw a giant wild dog nearly 3 meters tall. Its fangs were bared. It was rampaging wildly, sprinting right toward us. Behind it were over a dozen people holding clubs and knives. Every single one of them had a vicious look in their eyes. They were clearly mutated humans who had banded together after the catastrophe. Right now, they were chasing this mutated wild dog, trying to hunt it down and seize its resources. But the next second, the situation instantly reversed. The giant wild dog suddenly spun around. With one swipe of its paw, it knocked down the guy in the very front. It opened its jaws and bit clean through his throat. Blood splattered all over the ground. The rest of them turned pale with fright. They didn't dare to keep chasing. They turned and scattered for their lives. After the giant wild dog killed that man, its gaze swept across the street and instantly locked onto me. It seemed to sense that my aura was out of the ordinary. It treated me as its new prey. With a roar, it charged fiercely at me. Its speed was astonishing. My eyes darkened. I didn't want to go looking for trouble, but trouble kept finding me. Since it delivered itself to my doorstep, I might as well use this high-tier mutated wild dog to test the full combat power of all my stacked talents. Thinking of this, I gripped the 8-kilogram sledgehammer tightly with one hand. The heaven-defying monstrous strength of the bullet ant fully erupted. The veins in my arms bulged. Lightning coiled around my body. I stood my ground, quietly waiting for it to charge at me. The surviving pedestrians around all held their breath. Watching this scene from afar, the giant wild dog arrived in the blink of an eye. It opened its bloodthirsty maw and snapped viciously at my neck, bringing a thick, foul stench, trying to one-shot me with a single bite. My eyes were ice cold. Instead of retreating, I advanced. I kicked hard off the ground. My body instantly leaped into the air. Relying on my night vision, I precisely targeted its head. All my strength converged. I raised the sledgehammer high. With a whistling sound, I brought it down hard. Bam! A huge sound exploded. The wild dog's skull was instantly caved in. The electric current flowed from the hammer into its body, completely destroying its nervous system. The venom spread throughout its body as well. The giant wild dog didn't even have time to whimper. Its massive body crashed to the ground. After a few twitches, it stopped breathing. A one-hit kill on a high-level beast. The passers-by in the distance were completely stunned. The entire area was dead silent. Everyone looked at me, with nothing but extreme fear and awe. I shook the blood off my hammer. My expression was indifferent. I was just about to bend down and examine the wild dog's corpse to see if I could extract any useful transformation materials. That terrifying roar from the forest once again echoed through the sky. This roar was even more ferocious than the last. It carried a crushing pressure that swept over the entire town. The ground trembled violently. The glass on the storefronts shattered into pieces. Even the air became incredibly oppressive. The mutated insects that had scattered and the low-level beasts were also scared. They lay on the ground, trembling. They didn't even have the courage to move. I snapped my head up and looked toward the forest. My expression suddenly became serious. In the early days of the apocalypse in my last life, there were no beasts this powerful. Is this a change brought about by my rebirth? Just from its aura, I could tell. This beast's strength far surpassed the wild dog's. It was definitely a top-tier beast for the beginning of the apocalypse. What is that thing? Someone let out a terrified scream. Everyone followed the sound and looked toward the entrance of the forest. In the dark of the night, an enormous black shadow was walking toward the town, step by step. It was a full 5 meters tall. Its body was covered in hard, ink-black scales. Its head resembled a black bear's, but it had 3 sharp, blood-red horns. Its limbs were incredibly thick. Each step left a deep footprint in the ground. Foul-smelling saliva dripped from its bared fangs. Its eyes glowed with a bloodthirsty red light. It's a mutated black armored bear. The onlookers completely broke down. They didn't even have the strength to run. They collapsed to the ground trembling. It's over! We're all going to die! A beast this powerful, no one can stop it. The mutated black armored bear scanned the town. Its bloodthirsty gaze instantly locked onto me. It seemed to have sensed the powerful aura from when I killed the wild dog. It roared at me. Then it charged. Its speed was so fast, it left after images. In just a few seconds, it reached the middle of the street. Its giant paw, carrying the force of an army, swiped viciously at me. The wind pressure alone made it hard to breathe. "Look out!" The girl I had saved screamed shrilly. Her face was filled with despair. My eyes were cold. I didn't dare hold anything back. I instantly activated all my defensive abilities. The ultimate heavy armor of the ironclad beetle and the hard scales of the crocodile. 2 layers of defense were fully stacked. My body felt like an invincible fortress. At the same time, the tardigrade's immortal constitution and the salamander's ability were on standby. Facing the sweeping bear paw, I didn't dodge or evade. I gripped the sledgehammer with one hand. The bullet ant's 400 times strength completely erupted. All my muscles tensed. I focused all my power into the hammer. I swung it hard to meet the bear's paw. Clang, a sound like clashing metal exploded. The shockwaves spread out wildly in all directions. The trash cans and railings on the street were instantly sent flying. The immense force pushed me back 3 steps. My feet carved 2 deep grooves in the ground. My arm was slightly numb. The mutated black armored bear was also staggered by the blow. It clearly hadn't gained an advantage. It was completely enraged. It roared madly. It swung its bare paws again, launching a flurry of fierce attacks. Every strike carried world-destroying power, smashing the ground into a cratered mess. Relying on the owl's extreme night vision, I accurately tracked its every attacking movement, dodging nimbly. At the same time, I controlled the American electric eel's high-voltage lightning. Bolts of blue lightning blasted toward the black armored bear. Zzz. The sound of electricity crackled. The lightning struck its black armor, sending countless sparks flying, but it only left shallow scorch marks. Pure lightning attacks couldn't break its defense. My eyes narrowed. I immediately changed my tactics. The bullet ant's venom talent was fully activated. A faint purple glow shimmered at my fingertips. I found the perfect opening when the black armored bear pulled its claw back. I suddenly dashed forward, leaping into the air. Gripping the sledgehammer, infused with the power of coiled lightning and deadly venom, I smashed it viciously toward its head, at the most vulnerable base of its horn. Into this strike, I poured all my strength. Crack! A piercing sound of shattering rang out. One of the mutated black-armored bear's horns was instantly smashed off. Venom and electricity surged madly into its body through the wound, destroying its nerves and flesh. The mutated black-armored bear let out a blood-curdling scream. Its massive body convulsed violently. Blood gushed out. It struggled frantically, trying to counterattack, but it was suppressed by the dual forces of venom and lightning. Its movements became more and more sluggish. After landing, I didn't give it any chance to catch its breath. I stomped the ground and leaped up once again. Raising the sledgehammer high, I used all my strength and smashed it viciously into its skull. Crack! A crisp sound of bone shattering echoed. The mutated black-armored bear's skull completely caved in. Its massive body crashed to the ground. After twitching a few times, it completely stopped breathing. Foul-smelling blood dyed the entire ground red. Everyone around was absolutely dumbfounded. I slowly lowered the sledgehammer. The lightning around my body dissipated. My expression remained indifferent. This little test was far from enough. But right at that moment, dense footsteps and roars came from the distance. A group of berserk, mutated humans, dominated by their beastly instincts, were sprinting wildly in this direction. They stared at the black armored bear's corpse with greedy eyes. They clearly wanted to snatch the mutated beast's corpse. I looked down at my hands. I could clearly feel that after slaying the mutated beast, the beast mutation talents within my body were quietly growing stronger. The vitality coursing through me became even more surging. It was obvious that slaying a high-tier mutated beast had slightly tempered all my talents. Meanwhile, in the distance, that group of berserk mutated humans had already rushed to the intersection. There were a good dozen of them. Every single one had bloodshot eyes and hideous expressions. They all bore beastly physical traits. Some had grown wolf ears. Some had arms that had morphed into beast claws. At a glance, it was clear that after the catastrophe, they were ruthless characters completely controlled by their beastly nature. That black-armored bear's corpse is mine. Whoever tries to take it dies. The burly man leading them had a leopard's head. His build was agile and athletic. He held a blood-stained steel pipe in his hand. His tone was incredibly arrogant. His greedy eyes were dead set on the black-armored bear's corpse on the ground. In this apocalypse, the flesh and beast core of a high-tier mutated beast were all heavenly treasures that could boost one's strength. Seeing this, the other survivors were so scared they quickly backed away, terrified of getting dragged into this conflict. Even the girl I'd saved earlier shrank into a corner, not daring to make a sound. The dozen mutated humans surrounded me and the black-armored bear's corpse, completely boxing us in. They sized me up with vicious glares. Seeing that I was all alone, they became even more brazen. "Kid, you've got some skills to be able to kill this black bear, but your luck ends right here. Hand over the mutated beast's corpse obediently and tell us the secret behind your mutation talents, and I might just leave you with an intact corpse." I stood right where I was. I held the demolition sledgehammer in one hand. My expression was cold. There wasn't a ripple of emotion in my eyes. I just found it utterly ridiculous. In my last life, I was at the mercy of others because of my cowardice and willingness to back down. In this life, anyone who dares to covet what's mine will pay the price. I'll give you one last chance. Scram. My voice was calm, but it carried an unquestionable pressure. But this group of transformed, blinded by greed, didn't listen. "You're asking to die," the leopard-headed transformed roared. He swung his steel pipe and charged at me first. He was as agile as the wind. His speed was extremely fast. He was in front of me in an instant. The steel pipe whistled through the air, aimed at my head. The other transformed also. Roared and pounced. Some threw punches. Some showed their sharp claws. They wanted to use their numbers to their advantage and completely overwhelm me. Faced with their combined attack, I wasn't the least bit flustered. My owl's superhuman hearing was fully activated. Within a radius of several meters, the sound of the wind and their footsteps were crystal clear. I precisely predicted the trajectory of each person's attack. The dual defense of the ironclad beetle and the crocodile was instantly activated. I let their attacks land on me. Whether it was the steel pipe or the sharp claws, they only created a shower of sparks. They couldn't even scratch my skin. How is that possible? How can his defense be so strong? The leopard-headed man's face was filled with shock. He couldn't believe his full-powered strike had no effect. I couldn't be bothered to waste time with them. The bullet ant's 400 times strength erupted. I casually swung the sledgehammer. Bam! A dull thud rang out. The two people in front were hit by the hammer. They coughed up blood. Their bodies flew through the air like broken kites. They crashed heavily to the ground. They were knocked out cold on the spot. The remaining people's faces turned pale with fear. Only then did they realize that I was on a completely different level than them. But now, their path of retreat was cut off. They could only grit their teeth and continue to attack. With a thought, the American Electric Eel's high-voltage lightning ability was fully activated. Blue arcs of lightning instantly coiled around my body, forming a lightning barrier. The transformed who got close touched the current and were instantly electrocuted, their bodies convulsing. They collapsed to the ground. Then, the bullet ant's venom spread from my fingertips. My body flickered, dodging the chaotic attacks. Every strike I made accurately hit my opponent's vital points. The faint purple venom entered their bodies. Those who were hit went numb. Their limbs stiffened. They lost all ability to resist. In just a dozen seconds, of the dozen or so transformed who had surrounded me, more than half were down. Moans and groans filled the air. The leopard-headed leader was scared out of his wits. All his previous arrogance was gone. He turned and tried to run. Trying to escape? My eyes turned cold. I pushed off with my feet. My body shot forward in an instant. My speed far surpassed his leopard-like agility. I caught up to him in a single step. Then, I raised my hammer and smashed it into his back. Crack! The sound of bone breaking rang out. The leopard-headed man fell to his knees. He had completely lost the ability to fight. I coldly scanned the groaning, transformed on the ground without a trace of pity. The apocalypse is a world where the strong prey on the weak. It's either you die or I die. Mercy to your enemies is cruelty to yourself. After dealing with these scavengers, I walked over to the black armored bear's corpse and began to search it. I soon found a beast core in its head. It was the size of a goose egg. It was jet black and translucent. It emitted a faint energy fluctuation. This was the essence of a high-level mutated beast. Absorbing it could greatly enhance one's transformation abilities. My fingertips touched the jet black, translucent beast core. A cool energy flowed through my fingertips and into my body. A tingling sensation instantly spread through my limbs and bones. The owl's perception, the electric eel's lightning, the ant's monstrous strength, the ironclad beetle's defense. They all hummed in unison, like parched earth receiving sweet rain, frantically devouring the pure energy within the beast core. The remaining survivors around were already scared silent, as quiet as winter cicadas. The looks they gave me held nothing but awe and terror. They didn't even dare to breathe too loudly. The girl I had saved earlier was huddled in the corner. Her legs were still weak, but she mustered up the courage to take 2 steps toward me. Her voice was as faint as a mosquito's. "Are you okay?" I ignored her. My gaze swept over the black armored bear's massive corpse. A thought crossed my mind. The flesh and beast core of such a high-tier mutated beast are the absolute top-tier heavenly treasures in the apocalypse. Anyone who consumes them can boost their strength, but the risks are equally fatal. If an ordinary mutated human recklessly eats mutated beast flesh, at best, their talents will go haywire and their strength will regress. At worst, their mind will be consumed by berserk beastly instincts, completely reducing them to a monster that only knows how to slaughter. But I possess the immortal physique of the water bear, and multiple perfect talents. I can ignore the backlash and safely devour the essence of mutated beasts, allowing my combat power to climb steadily. This is my greatest trump card since my rebirth. I absolutely cannot expose it in front of everyone. Once people find out I can devour mutated beasts without side effects, to grow stronger, it won't be long before The entire apocalypses, powerhouses, and factions swarm over, treating me as a supreme treasure they must seize. Thinking of this, I suppressed the urge to refine it on the spot. I tucked the black armored bear's beast core safely into my pocket, planning to find a safe place to absorb it quietly later. But right at that moment, my owl's super hearing suddenly caught something. Dense sounds of wind being pierced came from the northwest, along with heavy stomping sounds. There were at least 30 of them. Their auras were berserk, far more ferocious than the black armored bear from just now. My eyes suddenly darkened. "If you don't want to die, hide immediately," I said coldly. The survivors woke up as if from a dream. They scrambled and crawled toward the nearest shops and residential buildings, locking the doors and windows tight. The girl also bit her lip and hid inside a convenience store. Watching me nervously through the crack in the glass door, I stuffed the beast core into my inner pocket. I hoisted the 8-kilogram sledgehammer with one hand. Lightning and venom coiled around my body simultaneously. Dual defenses fully activated. I stood in the middle of the street, facing the incoming beast tide head-on. The next second, a dense swarm of dark figures charged out of the night. Leading the pack was a mutated hound over 3 meters tall. Its fur was mottled, its fangs jutted out, its drool corroded the ground wherever it dripped. Behind it followed wolf types, leopard types, pig types, and dozens of other berserk, mutated beasts, all with blood-red eyes, seething with murderous intent. They were clearly drawn here by the black armored bears. Bloody scent and my aura. Reckless fools. I sneered softly. I stomped my foot, and my body shot forward instantly. Infused with the bullet ant's 400x monstrous strength, I swung the sledgehammer with both arms, creating a howling gale, smashing it right into the head of the leading mutated hound. Bang! The hound's skull instantly caved in. Electricity and venom invaded its body simultaneously. The beast didn't even let out a whimper. It just fell straight to the ground. The rest of the mutated beasts roared and pounced, slashing wildly with their sharp claws and fangs. But their attacks, landing on the dual heavy armor of the iron-clad beetle and crocodile, only sparked a few embers. They couldn't even break my skin. Instead of retreating, I pushed forward. Like a tiger among a flock of sheep, lightning talent fully activated. Blue lightning exploded outward with me at the center. Swaths of mutated beasts were electrocuted, convulsing violently. Venom trailed from my fingertips. Anything it touched collapsed. Empowered by monstrous strength, every swing of the hammer could shatter a beast's skull. My night vision allowed me to move through the darkness as if it were day. My hearing predicted every attack trajectory. I was like a god of war in the night. I was invincible among the beast pack. My clothes were splattered with blood, but I didn't care. With every beast I killed, my abilities grew stronger. The energy from the beast cores and the essence of the beast's flesh surged through my veins, continuously tempering my body. The tardigrade's immortality and the salamander's regeneration were on standby the entire time. Even if I was occasionally scratched in a sneak attack, the wound would heal in an instant. After just 3 minutes, the street was piled high with beast corpses. The smell of blood was thick and pungent. I caught my breath. I was just about to start collecting the beast cores, but I suddenly caught a glimpse of a cold glint of light from a distant rooftop. A sniper rifle. It's humans. And they were prepared, transformed with firearms. My heart tightened. My body instinctively dodged to the side. Bang! A bullet whizzed by. It hit the exact spot where I had been standing. A small crater was blasted into the concrete. An ambush, just as I thought. My eyes turned ice cold. In the apocalypse, the most terrifying thing is never the beasts. It's the greed and malice of your own kind. As soon as I thought that, 3 cold laughs came from the rooftop. 3 black figures leaped down. They landed gracefully. They were an eagle type, a fox type, and a snake type. Their auras were far beyond ordinary beasts. They were clearly powerful individuals who had planned this ambush carefully. The eagle-type man flapped his massive wings, hovering in midair. He sneered, "Kid," killing the black-armored bear and wiping out the beast tide. "You've got some skills. Hand over all the beast cores on you, please, and the secret to your transformation, and we'll leave you a whole corpse." The fox-type woman licked her lips. "We've been watching you for a while. Multiple abilities stacked in one person. That's not a secret you can keep." Don't resist or we'll make you wish you were dead." After speaking, the three of them surrounded me in a triangular formation. Their auras locked onto me. They were clearly confident of victory. The survivors, hiding nearby, had their hearts in their throats. The invincible god of the night from just a moment ago was now about to be surrounded and killed by three powerful transformed. I slowly stood up straight, holding my sledgehammer. A cold smile played on my lips. "Just you three?" The eagle-type man's face contorted with anger. "You're asking to die?" As he spoke, he flapped his wings. His body shot down like a sword, his sharp claws, carrying a fierce wind, aimed for my head at the same time. The fox-type woman's body flickered. She disappeared into the night. She was clearly preparing for a sneak attack. The snake-type man, meanwhile, spat out a corrosive venom that aimed straight for my face. The combined attack of the three powerful individuals was overwhelming. My eyes narrowed. I unleashed all my abilities without reservation. My owl's night vision instantly locked onto the fox type. Woman's invisible trajectory. The eel's lightning covered my body, forming a defensive electric grid. The ant's strength was channeled into my legs. I pushed off the ground and shot into the air. I charged straight at the eagle-type man. What? The eagle-type man's face was filled with shock and disbelief. While he was stunned, I grabbed his wing with a powerful twist. Crack! The sound of bone breaking rang out. The eagle-type man let out a blood-curdling scream. I had twisted off half of his wing. I then punched him in the chest. Venom and electricity simultaneously poured into him. He fell to the ground like a broken kite. He was dead after taking care of one of them. I landed on the ground just in time to meet the fox-type woman's sneak attack with a dagger. The dagger struck my body and was deflected by my heavy armor. The woman's pupils shrank. She turned to flee, but I sent a bolt of lightning that wrapped around her ankle. She instantly collapsed to the ground. Spare! Before she could finish, begging for her life. I finished her off with a swing of my hammer. She was killed on the spot. The last remaining snake-type man was scared out of his wits. He turned and ran. He sprayed venom wildly. My eyes were cold with a thought. A high-voltage current spread across the ground. It instantly caught up to his legs. Zaff! The snake-type man's body convulsed. He collapsed to the ground, unable to move. I slowly walked up to him. I looked down on him. "Who sent you?" It's the Qing Lang gang. They've set up a base in the east of town. Their leader is a wolf-type transformed, and he's extremely strong. He heard you have multiple abilities, so he sent us to capture you. Qing Lang gang. My eyes turned cold. In my last life, it was this gang that pillaged and murdered in the early days of the apocalypse. They were completely ruthless. My best friend from my previous life died at their hands. I never thought that in this life. They would come to me on their own accord. I looked down at the corpses on the ground. I secured the dozen or so beast cores. I turned and headed toward the east of town. I had only taken 2 steps when I heard the girl's faint voice from behind me. The Qinglang gang has taken over the largest wholesale market in the east of town. There are at least a few dozen desperate men in there. If you go alone, you'll really die. I didn't stop walking. I only turned my head slightly. My voice was exceptionally cold amidst the smell of blood. They're in the east of town? Then they're already dead men. After speaking, I tightened my grip on the sledgehammer. My body was like a bolt of cold lightning. I plunged into the purple-black apocalyptic fog. The fog in the east of town was thicker than in the old district. The smell of blood and smoke mixed together. It clung to my face like a sticky film. The closer I got to the Qinglang gang's base, the more piercing the blood-curdling screams and furious roars became. I stopped 100 meters away. My owl's night vision was fully activated. My cold gaze pierced through the fog. I saw through the defenses of the grain and oil wholesale market. The large iron gate was welded shut. The surrounding walls were embedded with broken glass and steel bars. On top of the walls stood transformed armed with steel pipes and machetes, each one with a vicious look in their eyes, like rabid dogs off their leashes. 3 guard posts in the front and back, 3 hidden crossbows, 8 patrolling transformed. In the deepest warehouse, a ferocious aura, like a tsunami, lingered. The leader of the Qinglang gang, a black wolf, transformed. In my last life, he relied on devouring his own kind and the flesh of mutated beasts. To forcefully increase his strength, he had the blood of hundreds of people on his hands. In this life, he dared to provoke me. Halt! Who goes there? I'm here to collect your leader's corpse. As soon as I spoke, I pushed off the ground with my feet. The bullet ant's 400 times strength erupted. My body shot toward the gate like an arrow. "You're asking to die," a guard roared, throwing a spear. The sharp spearhead whistled through the air. I didn't dodge or evade. The dual heavy armor of the ironclad beetle and the crocodile was fully activated. Clang! The spear bounced off my chest. It didn't even leave a white mark. The next second, I was in front of the iron gate. I grabbed the doorframe with one hand. With a powerful tug. Crunch. The welded iron gate was torn in half. The steel plate twisted like waste paper. The guards on the wall were scared out of their wits. Just as they were about to call for help, I raised my hand and flicked my wrist. A high-voltage current shot up the wall. Zap! The men convulsed. They fell from the wall. They were knocked out cold. Intruder, it's that monster who killed the black armored bear. The alarm blared. Dozens of transformed Qinglang gang members rushed out from both sides. They charged at me wildly with their weapons. Kill him! Take his abilities. My eyes were cold. The lightning around me surged. The sledgehammer swept out. Bang! 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 The few guys charging at the front were sent flying by a single hammer strike. The sound of bones shattering echoed endlessly. The American electric eel talent fully activated. Blue lightning exploded outward with me at the center. No one within 3 meters survived. The bullet ant's deadly venom coated the hammer's head. A mere graze caused paralysis. A direct hit meant instant death. Under my dual defenses, machetes hacking at my body, only sparked. Sharp claws tearing at me felt like a tickle. I moved through them as if no one was there. With every step, someone fell. Blood dyed the ground red. In less than 3 minutes, the guards at the entrance were completely wiped out, wailing all over the floor. Carrying the dripping sledgehammer, I walked step by step toward the warehouse at the very back. I kicked the iron door open. The lighting inside the warehouse was dim. Over a dozen survivors, bound by iron chains, were huddled in the corner, shivering in fear. Right in the center, a black wolf mutated human, over 2 meters tall, was sitting on a throne made of stacked oil drums. He had a human body covered in pitch-black bristles and blood-red wolf eyes. Drool dripped from the corner of his mouth. The berserk aura around him was so intense, it distorted the air. He was the boss of the Green Wolf Gang, Lang Tu. Lang Tu licked the blood off his claws. "You look quite appetizing. To think you actually fought your way to me. A body with multiple talents will definitely be a great tonic." After saying that, he glanced at the survivors in the corner. His tone grew even more cruel. "These people are all my nourishment. Once I devour them, I can evolve even further. You came at the perfect time. I'll devour you too." He suddenly stood up. His body lunged forward like a dark shadow. His wolf claws carried a sharpness that tore through the air, aiming straight for my head. His speed, strength, and ferocity far exceeded the black armored bear from before. My eyes turned serious. All my talents were instantly maxed out. Night vision locked onto his trajectory. Hearing predicted his attack. Monstrous strength infused my arms. Heavy armor covered my entire body. When his wolf claws clashed with my arm, a metallic clang rang out. The shockwave sent the surrounding. Debris flying. He suddenly stood up. His body lunged forward like a dark shadow. His wolf claws carried a sharpness that tore through the air, aiming straight for my head. His speed, strength, and ferocity far exceeded the black armored bear from before. My eyes turned serious. All my talents were instantly maxed out. His wolf claws clashed with my arm. A metallic clang rang out. The shockwave instantly sent the surrounding debris flying. I took 2 steps back. Lang Tu was also knocked off balance. "You actually blocked my claw?" His pupils shrank. "Your defense." I didn't wait for him to react. I took the initiative to attack. The sledgehammer, crackling with lightning and dripping with venom, swept toward his waist. Lang Tu reacted extremely fast. He dodged sideways. His sharp claws simultaneously swiped at my neck. The two of us instantly locked in close combat. Claw shadows and hammer winds, lightning and venom clashed wildly inside the cramped warehouse. Lang Tu grew more and more shocked as we fought, because his sharp claws couldn't break my defense at all. "What kind of monster are you?" He went completely mad. "I don't believe I can't kill you." Before his voice even faded, he suddenly opened his mouth and blasted out a black shockwave. Wherever it passed, shelves melted. The ground smoked. The next second, he was completely dumbfounded. His face was filled with utter disbelief. "How is this possible? How could you not be dead? There's a lot you don't know." Before my voice even faded, I suddenly dashed forward, instantly appearing right in front of him. I grabbed his wolf claw with my left hand. With a twist of monstrous strength, I snapped it right off. My right hand raised the sledgehammer high, infused with all my power. Lightning and venom smashed viciously into the top of his head. Crack! The wolf's skull instantly caved in. Black blood gushed out. He didn't even have time to scream. His massive body crashed to the ground. After a few twitches, he was dead. The chained survivors all stared with wide eyes. Their faces were filled with disbelief. I bent down and felt inside Lang Tu's head. I found a jet-black beast core. I put it, along with the other beast cores, into my inner pocket. I turned to look at the trembling people in the corner. Then I raised my hand and grabbed the thumb-thick iron chain. With a slight exertion of force, the iron ring snapped. Gather supplies. Barricade the doors and windows. Don't make a sound. The people didn't dare to delay. They hurriedly got up to clean up the mess. They moved grain and oil. They boarded up the windows. They gathered usable weapons. Only the faint sound of movement could be heard in the entire warehouse. After everything was arranged, I walked to a shadowy area outside the warehouse. I leaned against the wall and closed my eyes to rest. The gentle energy of the beast cores flowed slowly. My perception, strength, and defense were all quietly increasing. My aura was contained. I didn't reveal any of my power. When I opened my eyes again, they were as cold as ice. In the distant night, I faintly heard a few furious roars. My owl's superhuman hearing instantly picked up a distant disturbance. It wasn't a beast tide. It wasn't pursuers. It was the sound of modified off-road vehicle engines rumbling deeply. They were heading toward the wholesale market. The auras of the people in the vehicles were steady. They were well trained. Definitely not your average wandering survivors. My expression darkened slightly. I tightened my grip on the demolition sledgehammer. I slipped behind a pillar. I completely concealed my aura. In these early days of the apocalypse, anyone who dared to drive around openly was either a remnant of the military or a well-equipped, large-scale raiding party. Either way, they didn't come with good intentions. A moment later, 3 off-road vehicles stopped outside the wholesale market. The headlights went out. A dozen or so black figures quickly got out of the vehicles. They were armed with standard machetes, crossbows, and even 2 homemade shotguns. They moved in an orderly fashion. They headed straight for the warehouse. The leader's eyes gleamed. He was a high-level transformed who hadn't fully bestialized. His aura was even more condensed than Lang Tu's. There's the aura of living people inside, and the lingering scent of that black wolf's blood. Go in, search for cores, supplies, and anyone with abilities. Bring them all back. The leader's men quickly advanced toward the warehouse door. I stood in the shadows, motionless, with my night vision. Their every move, every breath was crystal clear. They had the advantage in numbers. They were well equipped. They had ranged firepower, and their leader was quite strong. This was the first organized armed force I had encountered since my rebirth. Even if I wouldn't lose in a head-on fight, taking bullets head-on would inevitably lead to injury, and rashly revealing all my abilities would be suicide. Thinking of this, I slowly adjusted my breathing. A faint, almost imperceptible blue electric current appeared at my fingertips. Perception, armor, lightning, venom, strength, and self-healing. All my abilities were quietly gathered, ready to be unleashed. The warehouse door was gently pushed open. The first black figure, holding a machete, cautiously entered. His eyes scanned the darkness warily. I stepped out silently. My body moved like a ghost, sticking close behind him. Before the man could cry out, I clamped my left hand over his mouth and nose. I bent my right hand slightly. My faintly purple, venomous fingertip lightly poked the back of his neck. The man's body instantly stiffened and convulsed. He couldn't even struggle before he went limp in my arms. I gently laid him on the ground. I didn't make a sound. After taking down the first person, the second person followed close behind. He had just taken 2 steps when his foot suddenly touched a faint electric current. I had already used the cover of darkness to lay a small electric trap on the ground. The faint current wasn't enough to be fatal, but it made him shudder. His movements froze. I took the opportunity to rush out from the shadows. I swung the sledgehammer in a wide arc. I used the side of the hammer to slam into his chest and abdomen. With a dull thud, the man doubled over and collapsed, unconscious. "You 2 useless fools, what's taking so long?" A low growl was heard. The third member rushed in, holding a crossbow. He had just raised it. When my owl's night vision precisely locked onto his movements, I sidestepped the crossbow bolt. My body suddenly closed in. I grabbed the crossbow with one hand and flipped it upwards. The next second, an electric current traveled through the crossbow. The man's body went numb, and he dropped the weapon and collapsed. After 3 men were taken down without a sound, the Greyhound leader outside finally realized something was wrong. 3 men went in. How come there's no sound at all? As he spoke, he waved his hand, signaling 4 men to advance in a combat formation. He himself held a homemade shotgun. He stood guard at the side of the entrance. His eyes were extremely sharp. The 4 men rushed into the warehouse and spread out to surround the area. Then, I stopped hiding. I suddenly rushed out from behind a pillar. The bullet ant's strength was channeled into my arm. The sledgehammer whistled through the air as I swung it. Bam! The man on the far left was instantly sent flying. The other 3, seeing this, cried out in alarm. They swung their knives and pounced. I didn't dodge or evade. The dual defense of the ironclad beetle and the crocodile was fully activated. The machete striking my shoulder only created a shower of sparks. It didn't even leave a white mark. What? The 3 men's faces were filled with shock. I swung the hammer back, knocking one of them down. An arc of electricity shot from my fingertips. It hit the 3rd man in the chest. He was electrocuted and paralyzed on the ground. The last man was scared out of his wits. He turned to run. I pushed off with my foot. I caught up to him in an instant and chopped the back of his neck. He was completely incapacitated in just 10 seconds. All 7 men who had rushed into the warehouse were taken down with minimal effort and minimal exposure. The Greyhound leader at the entrance's face changed completely. He finally realized that what was inside wasn't a lamb to be slaughtered, but a ferocious beast of the night lying in wait. "You in there? Come out!" The leader gripped his shotgun. He growled, "I know you're strong, but can you withstand a bullet? Hand over the supplies and the beast cores, and I'll leave you a whole corpse." I slowly walked to the warehouse entrance. I held the sledgehammer in one hand. My aura was as cold as ice. In the darkness, we faced each other from a distance. There were still nearly 10 men outside. 2 shotguns, 3 crossbows, and the leader himself was quite strong. A direct charge would surely get me shot. Taking a hit would surely injure me. Thinking of this, my eyes turned cold. I already had a plan. "You want the cores? Come and get them yourself." My voice was calm, but full of provocation. The leader's anger turned into a sneer. "You're asking to die." As he spoke, he waved his hand, signaling his men to spread out and surround the area. He himself took the first step toward the warehouse entrance. The barrel of his shotgun was aimed squarely at my chest. I stood in the shadows of the doorway, motionless. My night vision was fully activated. I locked onto the position of his every step. My hearing was fully activated. I caught the faint sound of him cocking the hammer. Lightning, venom, strength, and armor were all ready to be unleashed. 3 steps, 2 steps, 1 step. The leader had reached the doorway. He sneered and pulled the trigger. Goodbye. In the instant before the gun fired, I moved. I didn't take the hit head on. Instead, I sidestepped along the door frame. At the same time, I pushed off with my foot. I had already laid an electric trap on the ground where he was about to step. The shotgun pellets flew past my shoulder. They hit the wooden shelf behind me, sending splinters flying. The leader's pupils shrank. Before he could reload, he suddenly felt a numbing sensation in his feet. It's the electricity. I seized this 1 in 1,000th of a second opportunity. My body shot out like an arrow. I raised the sledgehammer high, but I didn't aim for his head. Instead, I smashed it viciously onto his right arm, the one holding the gun. Crack! The sound of bone breaking was sharp. The shotgun fell to the ground. Then the leader cried out in pain. He lunged forward, swiping with the sharp claws of his greyhound transformation. He aimed for my throat with a fierce wind. I didn't dodge or evade. I took the blow head-on with my armor. Clank! The claw was deflected. He was actually pushed back half a step by the impact. Impossible. His face was filled with disbelief. My eyes were cold. No more words were needed. I smashed the hammer into his chest. Bam! The leader was sent flying. He crashed heavily to the ground, unconscious. The remaining men were scared out of their wits. They no longer dared to advance. They turned to run. My eyes turned cold. I slowly followed them. It wasn't that I wanted to kill them all. But in the apocalypse, letting deserters go is like planting a time bomb for yourself. But I didn't plan on chasing them. With my owl's superhuman hearing, I had already locked onto the trajectory of all the fleeing men. Even if they hid behind thick doors and held their breath, their frantic heartbeats were like a blazing fire in the night to my ears. There was nowhere to hide. With a thought, The American Electric Eel's 800 volts of high-voltage current spread across the dew-soaked concrete. Zap! The sound of electricity mixed with muffled groans. In less than 10 seconds, all the scattered stragglers collapsed, convulsing. They had lost all mobility. I slowly walked up to one of them. I slammed the 8-kilogram demolition sledgehammer down next to him. A shallow crater was instantly formed in the concrete. "Who sent you?" My voice was as cold as ice. He was trembling like a leaf. "It's the leader of the Black Stone Gang. It's the wild boar transformed, Zhang Biao. He was planning to take over the Qinglong Gang, but he didn't expect you to wipe them out first." After speaking, he swallowed hard. He then blurted out 2 more pieces of information, still trembling. "The guys who ran away earlier already called for the main force on the walkie-talkie." I looked down at the man on the ground. I exerted force with my fingertips. The faint purple of the bullet ant's venom pierced the back of his neck. The man instantly went stiff. He stopped breathing. In the apocalypse, mercy to your enemies is cruelty to yourself. In less than 5 minutes, the roar of off-road vehicles came from the distant road. Blinding headlights cut through the dust and fog. 3 Hummers, reinforced with steel plates, charged toward the warehouse entrance. The tires screeched as they skidded on the ground. The car doors flew open in unison. More than 20 armed thugs poured out. The one in the lead was a 2.5-meter-tall, muscular man covered in hard, black bristles with the head of a wild boar. 2 tusks jutted out from his mouth. He was carrying a bloody machete. It was the leader of the Blackstone Gang, Zhang Biao. He glanced at his men on the ground, then at me, standing alone. He was stunned for a moment. Then his anger turned into a sneer. I was wondering, what kind of badass took out the Qinglong Gang? Turns out it's just a kid who hasn't even grown any hair yet. If you know what's good for you, get out of the warehouse. Hand over all the beast cores, and I'll leave you a whole corpse. Otherwise, I'll chop you and everyone inside into pieces and feed you to the dogs." As he spoke, the thugs behind him laughed along. 3 shotguns were aimed right at me. Their eyes were filled with greed and disdain. I couldn't be bothered to waste words. I spat out a single word: "Scram." Zhang Biao's smile vanished instantly. He roared, "You're asking to die!" He swung his machete and charged. The full force of his wild boar transformation was unleashed. The concrete beneath his feet cracked. The thugs behind him swarmed forward. The shotguns fired at the same time. The steel pellets whistled through the air toward me. My eyes narrowed. My owl's hearing had already predicted the trajectory of the bullets. I kicked hard off the ground and dodged to the side. The steel ball grazed past me and smashed into the wall behind, sending rubble flying. At the same time, the diabolical ironclad Beetle and Crocodile's dual defense was instantly maxed out. A dark silver, carapace-like glow shimmered around my body. Facing Zhang Biao, who was charging at the very front, I didn't dodge or hide. The bullet ant's 400x monstrous strength fully infused my arms. I raised the sledgehammer high and smashed it down viciously. Clang, the deafening sound of metal clashing made my eardrums ache. Zhang Biao only felt. An overwhelming, mountain-toppling force traveled down the blade of his machete. His arms went numb. The webbing between his thumbs and index fingers tore open. Blood streamed down. The machete flew right out of his hands. His face was filled with sheer terror. Before he could even react, I swung the hammer backhand, sweeping it viciously right into his waist. Crack, the crisp sound of bones shattering exploded. Zhang Biao's massive body was sent flying. He crashed heavily into an SUV several meters away. The windshield instantly shattered. He coughed up a mouthful of blood and died on the spot. One-shotting the boss of the Blackstone Gang, the remaining thugs instantly froze in place. Their arrogance completely turned into fear. I didn't give them any time to react. With a thought, the 800-volt high-voltage current instantly erupted, spreading out from me into an impenetrable web of electricity. The few thugs charging at the front were just about to pounce, but the moment their feet touched the current, they convulsed violently. Their weapons clattered to the ground, and they collapsed stiffly to the floor. 2 crossbowmen hiding in the back, shooting cheap shots, had just pulled their triggers, but I locked onto them with pinpoint accuracy. I leaped into the air, dodging the crossbow bolts. Moving like a ghost, I closed in right in front of them. My fingertips shimmered with deadly venom. I lightly poked the back of their necks. The 2 of them stiffened and collapsed without even letting out a scream. The rest of them were scared out of their wits. They turned and ran for the cars. I pushed off the ground, darting forward, and swung the sledgehammer continuously. Bang bang, dull thuds echoed endlessly. With every swing of the hammer, a thug fell to the ground. In less than 2 minutes, over 20 fully armed thugs of the Black Stone Gang were completely wiped out. No one survived, but right at that moment, the roar of helicopters suddenly came from the distant horizon. I snapped my head up. 3 military green armed helicopters were flying toward the small town, the red insignia on their fuselages. I remembered it until the day I died in my past life. That was the exclusive insignia of the official survivor base. This beast mutation catastrophe that swept the globe had only just begun, and I am destined, in this apocalypse of blood and fire, to stand at the very pinnacle of the world.